there exists a constant battle for survival. Welcome, my friends, to Atomics on a Friday, a fascinating journey into the realm of cybersecurity, data, and atomic testing. Today, we shall embark on an adventure with two seasoned experts who have roamed the cyber wilderness for years, honing their skills and strategies. Paul Michaud, a master of cyber shenanigans, has an uncanny ability to unravel the most perplexing digital mysteries. Alongside him is Michael Haag, a cyber threat connoisseur who has devoted his life to understanding and mitigating the ever-present dangers lurking in the shadows of cyberspace. Together, they shall guide us through the complex tapestry of this digital ecosystem, revealing hidden treasures and secrets that will undoubtedly leave us with a newfound respect for the world of cybersecurity. So, dear viewers, let us dive deep into the heart of this wondrous realm, where the forces of good and evil collide in an eternal struggle, and let us explore what it truly means to protect our delicate digital existence. Join us on Atomics on a Friday.
Howdy, happy Friday.
We made it.
Yes, we have made it. Only 2 days left in the work week. Getting there.
What?
Used to have an old I think it was a CIO or something, and he'd always crack that joke at a meeting on a Friday. Only 2 more days left of the work week.
I thought Monday was like a corporate holiday until like yesterday when I realized it was not a recognized holiday, which is probably a good thing because I was planning on a 3-day weekend and definitely not showing up, and turns out, nope, still need to show up on Monday. So it could have been worse.
Yes. I don't even know days of the week. 10% of my day.
Same.
It is wild in the streets.
Always.
It's been my phrase this week. Oh, we have an agenda, and it actually was updated. We're doing APT29 today, and it was updated. I don't know who did that.
Oh, I did.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, there. Oh man, I didn't even think to check it, and it's there. Cool. Excellent. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one today. We're gonna dive into some cool stuff related to who we are, of course, because 10% of the time nobody knows who we are. Is everything okay?
I don't know. There's crashing going on in the house.
What we're hunting, APT29s, detection and mitigations, which I may or may have forgotten to do that part. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't recall if No, I definitely did not. We'll touch on them as we're going through APT29, but they're not like explicitly listed like the other one.
Yeah. And I don't think there was really anything like super like
earth-shattering.
Yeah, it's just typical APTs. Cool. Jam.
Dig in.
I love how you rotated it this time.
Well, I did like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and I don't think it carried over into the ones that we did do. But yeah, I flipped them, and then we also fixed your title since you now have the big P title.
Oh, got it. Fancy. Thank you.
And I exchanged mine.
Fancy bear.
No, this is a different bear.
Yeah, this is the cozy bear.
It's warm and cuddly. It's perfect. It's fall time.
Yeah.
Pumpkin spice is back in full swing.
And you want to be cozy, right? Like, or you're either stuck inside of a midnight blizzard. Nobody wants to be stuck inside of a midnight blizzard.
Better than having flaxseed.
Yes. Except they're bakers.
Unless you're baking with it. Yes. I would say, yes, I'm ready to be cozy, but it's been like 80-something to 85 this week, so it's not like cozy campfire times. It's still sweat. Problem is, I took the air conditioner out of my office because I'm like, oh, weather's dying down, and then this week's like, just kidding, we're back up to the high temps, and it was brutally uncomfortable in the office. Fine everywhere else in the house, but not in here.
That's how it always works.
Times.
I know.
Every time.
It was like 60 the last couple of days, and then it's like we're gonna go back at the 80. It's like okay,
Yep.
No more.
Don't be like that, but I do.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So if you're just joining us for the first time, enjoy the air conditioning banter. Basically, my name is Michael Haig, and principal threat researcher at Splunk. You can find me on the Twitters. You can find me on the socials, LinkedIn, and all that. First time here. Maintainer of Atomic Red Team. I'll try to rattle them off. Maintainer Atomic Red Team. That other one, load drivers and bootloaders. And we also have a really cool Sigma converter called Sigma Converter or sigconverter.io. That's the newest one. That one's cool. It doesn't have LLMs. Whoops, back to Flaxseed. Doesn't have LLMs or an $11.99 charge as well, so it's free.
How about NLPs?
Not yet. Soon. It's being baked.
APTs sprinkled in there.
Yeah. Yep.
Good times. I'm Paul Michaud. I'm a senior threat hunter at Unit 42. I don't have full accolades like Mike does. Mostly here for banter and raging, but yeah, let's go.
Let's do this.
Maybe one day I'll have something cool to share, like a project. Soon. I got one baking.
Yes. You got your APT bacon?
Yeah.
Bacon, APT bacon. That's a cool one. That should be like, I mean, it basically is the same as a beacon, but it's just an APT bacon. Get it? Bacon. Kind of looks like bacon at the bottom there too. Beacon bacon.
Take some bacon.
Yeah. Yes. If you're just tuning in, we have been doing what's called Atomic Wednesdays, where as a first-time bacon contributor to Atomic Red Team, you too can become an open source contributor and get a free shirt of Atomic Red Team and a free Atomic Red Team sticker. And so do the Twitters and look for hashtag Atomic Wednesdays. You'll see all the priors. This one was, I think, the latest one. I don't remember what it is, but if you click it, you may or may not find that someone contributed it yet. I think I'm 4 for 5. I think there's one that has yet to be contributed. So, and I missed this Wednesday. Those who are holding me accountable, which nobody has, I missed it because this week was my birthday and I refused to keep shipping more stuff on my birthday. Just kidding. I'm always shipping.
Wait, I thought your birthday was Monday.
It was, but I took the week off from Atomic Wednesdays.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that was Monday.
Yeah.
I was like, I sent that text on Monday, and I was like, wait, that was definitely Monday when I sent that.
Yep. Take the week, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
Now I think a few people have actually used it. Got some.
Yep. Yeah, it's been good.
Copy and paste.
Like I said, 4 or 5 have contributed now. So progress.
Right on.
And what's crazy is I thought I contributed one of them. And yesterday I was using one of them for my demo. And I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't contribute this. And I saw the PR and it was somebody else. And I was like, that's cool.
That's awesome.
I kind of wrote it, but I did it. But someone PR'd it. So that's the cool part. Yeah. Good job. Good job, people.
Excellent.
Keep contributing. All right.
What are we up on this section? This is a busy week.
2 weeks. It's been kind of wild with lots going on.
Confluence was yesterday.
Oh yeah, and there was a Team City one, but I was like, I don't know. I don't think anybody uses Team City. But then, like,
And so who's still using Team City?
Yeah, when you say Team City, I think of GeoCities and but I think the cool one was the WSFTP from our good friends who also provided us the Move It breach, which I thought was cool. Double tap on their software.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. 2 for 2 here. I don't know if they have any other file sharing apps, but I'm sure people
I think there's
are
like
looking.
4.
Really? They got 4?
I don't know. But like if you go on their website, like there's a bubble of like the one, and there's like 4 sub bubbles, and like the sub bubble was like WSFTP or something. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know how it works, but
Well,
it's kind of like Telerik at this point. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
yes.
Yeah. So that's a fun one. So actually, Unit 42, we saw some of this activity, which is pretty interesting. We did tweet about it.
Saw the tweet.
So
yep. You go find it.
Honestly, it's pretty straightforward from like exploitation standpoint. IIS process worker W3WP does suspicious commands. In this case, look for certutil usage and then execution. In this case, they were delivering some interpreter payloads. So that was interesting. It's fun.
Which
again,
I thought was like kind of neat. Just like bringing back the old interpreter there. Like okay.
What's old is new.
Yeah. There's the link. But I know what's old is new. It's true.
And Gray Noise is tracking these IPs as well. Oh
yes. Have they updated?
Thingy.
I thought I checked. Maybe it was one of the other ones I checked and I didn't see any hits yet. But yeah, are they getting hits on this one?
It looks like I just loaded it and one of them showed up.
Okay.
But yeah, searching Gray Noise Viz for the WSFTP.
Got it. Cool. I did see one of them.
Yes, there's one unique IP.
Yeah.
Tagged IPs. And surprisingly, I don't think that's the one that's noted in what we saw or what was tweeted from Unit 42.
We forgot one on the list. I don't know if he hunted
what did we forget?
SharePoint.
What?
the SharePoint elevation of privilege. Did you see that? Boom. There's the POC.
Yeah, but
that one tripped too. Which I thought had also led to it might chain this vuln with a RCE, and there's another tag of a CVE in there too. But yeah, there's a double. That one was kind of like interesting.
Yeah, so WSFTP, again, monitor your suspicious processes off of those. Command line WSFTP. So if you're not sure, go look for IIS with command line WSF_FTP. Should give you some hits if you do have it. But also asset inventory.
Something else for the WSFTP. It was using an ad hoc IIS module. And it reminded me of all the IIS component work in the past.
That somebody on this call did.
Somebody did once or twice. Wrote a whole blog. But
I'm pretty sure there's like 5 atomics for it too.
Yeah. There's quite a bit of stuff for this. But inventorying, you can do inventory, get web module or something like that. Get web content module, something like that, IIS module stuff.
Yes.
But you can dump your modules, look at them, or inventory them. And this chain of events is pretty simple. Like as far as an atomic goes, like PowerShell, certutil, interpreter, which is very easy to generate.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Again, it's not super. This one to me is more interesting than the Confluence one, but in like simplicity stakes, like this one is more like just straightforward. There's no like caveats or gotchas. It's really whatever you're going to execute, right? And that's going to be based on whatever the attack chooses. But chain events, again, monitoring those suspicious child processes as well as identifying those. And of course, there are mitigations and patch. Are there patches? I don't remember. I haven't looked.
There is.
Patches are available. So go patch, go mitigate. All things. Now, Confluence, this one is, I don't even know where to start.
Where's the link?
Collect the logs. That you're not going to see things in like the EDR side of things. It's purely going to be in application logs because it's against the actual application itself. Elevating privileges, adding admin users, etc. All that stuff is going to be contained in those Atlassian logs for it. It's not like the WSFTP where it's leveraging IIS under the hood and then child process, etc. So WAFs, proxies, look for those things, and then of course the Atlassian logs, which have exactly what you should be looking for. There was a Rapid7 one where they actually found a second API or endpoint that could be used. So gonna want to watch those. So search Rapid7, the CVE for Confluence or Conflu, depending on how you want to search it. But there's a potential second one. So again, monitor those, apply the mitigations. But yeah, nothing super earth-shattering on that front.
It looks like WSFTP was merged into Metasploit 2 days ago.
Excellent. That's the perfect time.
Yeah. So if you want to mix your interpreters and all that, you got a little gang of friends there. Oh.
Yeah, it's a good time to drop those. Just right after they go.
Yes.
Why not? Well, it's already being explained. I might as well just drop it. Yeah, that's fine.
This is fine.
Yeah, moving on.
We'll
get salty about this whole thing.
Yes, this is our OST.
Look,
okay.
Do I think they need to be published? Yes. Do I think they need to be dropped as soon as you find it? No. Look, let's be real.
Yeah.
All right.
Give everybody a minute to patch.
3 to 5% of orgs out there are going to be able to handle it as soon as it drops. The other 95% aren't even going to be able to touch it for that time for 3 to 6 months down the road, probably even 2 years down the road. So let's think about the generalization. But moving on.
What is?
So it's not listed.
Oh, go ahead.
I would say it's not listed, but we'll touch on it first before browser cache smuggling, because that's an interesting one, but also not interesting at the same time.
Yep.
Somebody tweeted.
Thanks.
Aura.
But yes, Aura.
So for those of you that do hunting where you're looking for, when you open up a zip file in like Windows 10, Windows 11, and it creates that temporary directory in app data. And so when you open that zip file and start browsing it, it creates temp_1 of the zip file and then proceedingly the files contained inside of it. However, apparently Microsoft has decided that's too simplistic. We're just going to give it random GUIDs for the file name. So any analytics detections or hunts that you leverage where you're looking for temp_1 inside the app data, look for potential amounts of archive files, is now structured different. So you should probably go check those and validate those. So shout out to finding that, because that's not problematic or anything, and just randomly changing it, because why?
Yeah.
Why would we focus on doing something like that versus actually, preventing things? But I digress.
Yes.
Like, how did this become higher up on the list of changing than some other stuff? Just curious. But again,
like sign drivers that are vulnerable.
Just being yeeted into the kernel.
Wait, signing drivers from APTs. There's a Drake meme right there.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll create it while we talk about the next one.
Browser cache smuggling. So the technique is actually a really cool idea. However, it was just like, oh yeah, you just do this thing, and then, oh, I also need to elude them to execute a PowerShell one-liner. That's where it was like, okay, I'm out here. Like, I feel like there are some other ways to do it, but still, nonetheless, it was a very interesting technique of getting the payload onto the disk to do it. So hat tip to that. I don't remember where that log went. Do you have is that in the slides?
Oh yeah, I got it. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you got it? Okay, cool.
We just dropped them.
You gotta make this meme.
Yeah, I've got important things going on over here, man. Here we go. Oh, it didn't paste.
Honestly, I feel like there's a missed opportunity for like InfoSec meme generation, like top tier, like selling it off.
Here we go.
Kind of like NFTs, but
boom. Sense post. Got that.
Sense post. Thank you.
Cache. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did, and I like changing the content type of your payload as a image or whatever, and then like having the victim browse the site, hit it, downloads, it's there. And then the sucky part was, like you said, like, hey, victim, run this PowerShell command, or
right, download
whatever.
something, or convince them to copy and paste some one line.
Yeah.
If you fix that second component in the chain, it could be a very interesting like technique. And like the first part, again, genius. Like,
yeah, that's super clever.
Really cool, very clever. Haven't seen too much of that, but again, that's that second component. But again, if you're finding success with it, who cares? Like it works, right? You look at like anything that happens, especially like when we go into this APT29 stuff, you're thinking, well, it's an APT, it's advanced, it's got to be some, burn O days or whatever. Like, no, like the basic fundamental things still work. And as simple and stupid as it seems, like, why do something complex when you could just keep it simple? Yep. So hat tip to that. Very cool technique, again, from that. So highly recommend checking that out.
And browser cache smuggling is not on MITRE. So I think I don't think they.
Well,
is it new or is it not? Does it fall into something?
I feel like this is like, I'm going to leave that to Jamie, and maybe Jamie can feel it, but I don't think it's a technique on its own. I think it's like a wrap into something else of like a different technique. Like, I feel like you could semantics it and debate it of where it should go. But I probably don't think it could be. Unless we start seeing something massive, and then it just has to become its own. But I feel like it's...
If it didn't require that second piece, I think it would be probably its own technique right out the gate. But
now, I'm curious if you could somehow wrap that without requiring user interaction. Maybe like a Chrome O-Day. Start dropping those.
That's true.
Because everybody's got those lying around. Just, O-Days are bountiful these days. Just kidding.
Yes. I always carry O-Days. You don't?
If you're not packing like at least 3 to 4, are you like prepared?
Yes. 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 Buttons.
Buttons are hard.
There we go.
That is true.
Oh,
you added one.
Last one was I think in the last 2 weeks, Red Canary had shared a new atomic test harness called T1055-002 portable executable injection. And that's the new.
Did you memorize that technique ID, or do you have the blog up?
I was literally looking at it on another tab because there's no way. Yeah.
So I forgot who posted on Twitter or yesterday or the day before about how many technique IDs you have memorized.
Jamie. Yeah.
Was it Jamie? All right.
I think
you can always count on Jamie for things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's one. No, actually, I don't even remember. I can like name them, but I could not tell you the technique ID associated with it.
Yeah, maybe 2. I think of like T1218. I probably couldn't tell you all the names of the sub techniques, but I could tell you T1218 and T1055.
1055, yeah, that's a good one.
001. T1218 010. Isn't it PowerShell?
I thought 55 was PowerShell.
T1055 001, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's PowerShell.
Oh, okay,
it's not.
I thought
T1059 001 is PowerShell.
Oh, so what's 55 001?
55 001 appears to be DLL. 001 appears to be DLL injection.
Oh.
It's in the same kind of class with like it's process injection. That's all of them. Is T1055. 1059 PowerShell, which is also a bunch of other for like command and script interpreter. That's what it is. Yeah. And then T1218 is system bin prox execution, and that's where all the main crew hang out. And then the only reason why I knew 010 is because I just did registered 32 yesterday. Yeah. Whoa. We lost the Paul. That's okay. we will continue. All right, so I think that wraps up. We typically do like 20-ish minutes of our What You Hunting. So I hope that was interesting. A lot of these we do have atomics for. There's a lot of POCs out there for these. And mixed with that, or next, we're going to go ahead and jam on into APT29, which happens to be the world famous Cozy Bear. Pull up, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to jump into APT29. We are using one blog that just recently came out from Mandiant, and let me find it. But this blog was recent, and that's why I chose it. I thought it was actually a good play into segueing of new things, but we'll find that a lot of it happens to be very similar tradecraft that we kind of continuously see. But if you follow along in the blog, we will go and dive into that here too. All right, yeah. So more or less what they had been seeing for the year, there's a bunch of different campaigns every month. And so as you drill through the blog, I think it says like a 21-minute read. It's a very long read. But there's a lot of like indicators and things like that in there. Hey, welcome back. Just jumping on in. And so where was I? Yeah. So typically what they are seeing is that comes into a phishing email, shocker. It will have one of these 4, 3, 4, 5 different types of methods for that first click, whether it's an attachment. You can see it starts on the left with like an attachment that contains a root saw, which is a HTML file, or a compromised website hosting the HTML file, and or a lure document containing a link to a compromised website, which contains the payload, or a compromised website link serving payloads. I think I got them all. There's a bunch of buttons here, or routes to evil. 1, 2, 3. Yep, I think I got them. Yeah, that one has
5.
2. Yeah, there's
5
5
methods.
The lure on the right looks to lead to either a compromised site or a compromised site. Oh, okay. Root saw seems to be the root of things.
As we can see, they all end up at one thing.
Yep, which happens to be
malware.
A zip ISO.
Yes, it's more accurate, but at the end of the day, it's malware.
Yep, HTML containing a zip or an ISO, or both, a zip and ISO, a zip with an ISO in it, ISO and a zip.
But just archive files. Archive files, virtual hard drives, virtual disks. But again,
we've been over this.
There's no ODays, none, right?
Nope.
Standard delivery, just like anything that's out there. Look at your anything coming in, it's phishing based, but it's interesting when we start digging into it, is going to be the different like anti-analysis and evasion things they try and put into it to evade all of these things. But again, all of these have very similar constructs. So let's dig in, because there's actually, I've read that blog like 3 times now, and each time I find like one more little thing that sticks out. It's like, oh, that's super interesting. Oh, that's super interesting. But when you stack it all together, it's just very standard.
And let me find my machine. Yeah, I figured I'll bring up so here's the Cozy Bear So Fancy. Anyway, this is the Mandiant blog, obviously. Just published, yay. All the kind of like standard highlights, and let me know if there's a spot, Paul, that you want me to highlight into. And then I'll stop here in a second on a spot.
Yeah, right there is probably good.
Okay.
So the first kind of 2 paragraphs are very like high level, like overview of what's going on. But the interesting point here is the different clusters and then their access methods. So in the case of like phishing to cloud exploitation, so different vectors that are going to eventually converge into the same objective. But again, just kind of breaking it down. The first part we're focusing more on is the phishing side of things, but not to like forget about the cloud exploit side of it. Yeah, I think they named like 5 right there. So let's see here. Upon opening the archive file, victims are presented with either a Windows LNK file or a legitimate software binary. So when open, executes an accompanying DLL. So there's going to be like your search order hijacking or run DLL execution. So in the LNK file, we'll have the parameters of what's that path called? What's that that field?
Blanking.
Path. Yeah, you look at the properties and it's just the command box. But yeah, leading to commodity backdoors such as Beacon, Cobalt Strike, or BRC4, Brute Ratel.
Yep.
Now, what I find interesting is that you can only be a legitimate organization in order to buy and obtain the keys for Brute Ratel, the most evasive EDR. The most
OST.
evaded EDR. Yeah. On the face of the earth, because it's been tested against all 57 different EDRs and evades every single one of them with prevention turned down to the max. So I find that very interesting that a crime organization was able to legitimately acquire the keys to this.
Yep. Yeah, and if they're using the old version,
just trolling at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they're using the old version, which they're not, they're most likely using the latest because, you know, money's money.
Yeah.
He's
money talks.
Yep. Yeah, so I think the thing that one thing I caught here was when I was digging through was this line right here, also known as NV Scout, which led me to, so remember kind of like that graphic we showed on the slide. I pivoted over to here, which is a blog from 2021, which Mandiant calls out that, you know, starting in 2021. If you go back here, and I was digging through this blog, and basically they've been using this same tradecraft for a while now. HTML file, LNKs, and whatever it may be, but they're basically they've been doing this for a while. This isn't like completely new for this group. So this is back in 2021, they will obfuscate, embed the ISO in the HTML file. That's how they smuggle it. And then, you know, they had a bunch of different pieces where it'll either, you know, go out, grab the XOR piece to decode the blob or the ISO, and all that. So kind of cool. Like if you think about like just how, I don't want to say how far they've come, but just how, I guess I want to say innovative they were, or creative, and just like, this was in 21. Like we're using all these random cool ways to like go in and evade like all these controls and stuff and deliver a container, an ISO.
But it's also interesting that at the end of the day, you can take the same idea, right? HTML smuggling, the inside, you wrap it all around.
Yeah.
But then the delivery is still an ISO with an LNK, a DLL, and an EXE smacked inside the middle of it with some decoy PDFs images, right? Like.
Yeah, I know. It's wild.
That's why, because you think about it, right? The thing is
to
get past your email gateways, right? Like the technology that prevents to get it actually onto the endpoint, right? Like, you know, we talk about things like QR codes, and one of the things I keep going back to is like Sublime, like Sublime Security. Like, I'm curious as to what would fire on any of these emails that got obtained. It's got to be insane, like the way of it. Because if things like, you know, your standard tools are catching it or not catching it, like throwing in the mix of something like Sublime, which is doing some really interesting work in the email sector, especially on these detections of things like this.
Where they're using I don't know what their query language is called, but they're using a very similar to EQL in-game query language.
MDM?
Is that what they're using? Is that what it's called?
It's called MDM.
Oh, I thought they had.
Or MQL.
MQL? Yeah.
Yeah.
MQL. Yeah. And are they doing Yara? I can't remember. There was 2 components I thought that made them a little bit different than.
I'm not sure about the Yara component. I know MQL's.
I do know this. It's free for like 100 mailboxes. I saw that tweet.
And it takes I personally set it up with Josh last year sometime, and I think we were up and running in like 10 minutes. It was probably the easiest deployment. And then testing, writing your own analytics are extremely simple, and there's a public repo. You can go look at the rule set that's public. You can also have private rule sets as well if you have some sensitive things that you're doing. It's honestly, in my opinion, one of the greatest platforms out there right now from like doing stuff with email side of things, especially the QR code. Like Microsoft's having troubles with it. I'm sure other tools are having trouble with it, but you go out there and there's a rule set already for the QR side of things. Very, very cool platform. We're not sponsored by them, by the way. I just really love that platform and that team. They're doing some really great stuff. But moving in.
So yeah, moving to now is what they're doing. The blog basically, why it's so long, is they break down kind of each, or what, like this, like the different campaigns that they had been performing over the last months. Yeah, like this one.
And there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Things like tiny URLs, different conversions, using legitimate things, right? Like different ways, but still delivering like the root saw.
Yeah.
And I don't know where these names come from, but like they have like just an AI generator just spitting out random names and then assigning them. Like really curious how these things come out, but yes.
Yeah. But like in this case, it's an HTM dropping the ISO. So smuggler.
We have an atomic for that.
We have an atomic for that. And
I think somebody fixed it. It was broken for like a year, but I think somebody fixed it.
Did I fix it?
I think you fixed it.
I fixed an ISO one. I don't know if it.
Yeah. I think it was the HTML one.
I think so. Yeah.
But this is a good talking point, which is part of like the analysis check, which are two components. So one, making sure that it's Windows NT box, and two, that it's not coming from a .NET user agent string.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I was like, what are you talking about? Right here. The top.
Yeah. So like that's a really interesting thing. And honestly, hunting user agent strings is probably like a really good one. I've been looking into that recently of doing like some stuff with user agent strings. Like Luma C2 has its own user agent string, and there's been some caveats of other things that are similar with similar naming of user agent strings. But yeah, highly recommend checking out user agent strings. Yeah, in this case, it's using it to check to make sure that it's going to pass checks before going on to the next thing. And if you don't pass the checks, it gives you a decoy PDF file.
Yep.
But I thought that was kind of interesting, like just a different way of checking. Right? 'Cause sometimes you see like querying with like WMI, and some of those things stick out. Whereas in this case, it's just like, hey, I'm going to use baked in JavaScript to do the work and try and limit the amount of things I potentially execute. Yeah,
it reminds me too a little bit of the whole mock bend with APT28, where it would check if you were, not a VM and different things like that before it forwarded you along to the actual payload. Which I thought, very similar. Maybe they share things.
Maybe there's overlap. I don't know.
Fancy cozy bears.
Just looking fancy, well cozied up next to a log
fire. They use the they use the same Confluence docs.
I hope they patched. Just kidding. I hope they didn't.
Yes, I hope it's on the internet.
Same. But another one. I think this was.
This is the PDF, right?
It's really interesting the like pretext that they use to deliver some of these. Very interesting of how you're like specifically targeting and creating these to be more inclusive versus just here's some musky beat. Okay. I pay attention to these names and then I forget them because I'm like, there's so many different ones, but just reading the pretext of that, what they're using is really interesting to target and really draw attention to and trying to get it, but not so much as a shock factor. I think it's very subtle, but it sticks out because like it's engaging. So you have to give props for that. Public request through like IPFE.
Yep.
There's other ones that have been doing it, like WTF my IP, some other ones that have been used to do like an IP check for like geolocation and other information. Again, document contained a link to a phishing website which delivered either an ISO or zip archive to the victim. So again, monitoring things like zip is harder, ISO, who in accounting, marketing, etc., is downloading ISOs, right? It should be a very limited. Now, zip again is a harder one, but again, thinking about how we can limit specific usage, but then again, follow-on activity. Counter-operation, yeah.
And so I think it was right here they're saying that more or less they changed behavior, remove the HTML.
Remove HTML smuggling.
Yep. And then now, back in May, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you go back up to that bullet point, that's right. That's where this one was, which was talking about the artifacts. So on the second bullet point, it says potentially remove HTML smuggling to remove potential forensics artifacts. Now, I don't know, right? Like, I think personally, the HTML smuggling could blend in a little bit more than a user going straight to a website and downloading an ISO file. I feel like depending on how you get the HTML down and then open to actually write that ISO to disk, could be a little bit more like sneakier versus the thing just showing up, Chrome ISO downloaded from Chrome, right? Versus some other way where you can kind of make it. But again, that's the great debate.
Yeah.
And obviously, if it worked, why do it? So I feel like I don't see how it reduces potential artifacts, but I also see how it could.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those. Again, this is where the human element of an attack comes into play versus anything else. Everything leaves an artifact.
Yeah, and they continue to use like the server-side filtering. Like, is this before we give you our payload? Like, do you pass our checks? But yeah, I bet you they kind of continue depending on the user agent. Yep, kind of keeps going with their filtering.
Decoy.
Very similar to 28 in that regard.
And now this is really interesting. The WordPress section. This caught my attention. Like, I thought this was really interesting. Is that so they pop WordPress site, they deliver the file, and the file's deleted. So then you're like getting some alert. You're like, oh, I got to go check it. Like, now artifacts are like missing. It's gone. So it's a really interesting way of using WordPress, and it continues shows up. It's one of those things that just continues to be used and abused for hosting payloads.
Yeah.
Start to playing the correct 404 error.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then they're gonna say they're likely not to find it because it's not gonna show up in those logs. But
that's pretty cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, PDF.
IceBeat more
HTML. I missed that part.
First contain PDF, and then the PDF writes HTML, and then that opens, and then that pulls. That remotely pulls it. So that's interesting. Where sometimes you embed the payload in the HTML, right? You're smuggling HTML in, and then it just writes it out once it's open. Whereas this one is saying, okay, I'm going to write this HTML file, open the HTML file. Once that's open, then the payload reaches out to a remote host and pulls it down. So again, you're kind of just stringing along all these different things in order to evade potential sandboxing, various analytics on the disk.
I think I saw, let me see if I have it in my slides, where it uses the API for Dropbox.
Yeah, look at that. So services, command and control, Dropbox, Firebase. The amount of times I've seen Firebase used for delivering or hosting malware, I would be rich and sitting on an island.
It's clever. Yep.
Now, not shilling a specific thing, but using firewall logs and looking at your applications, right? Like Palo's app, they call it Appedia.
Oh, yeah.
APIDIEA.paloofnetworks.com, and basically groups all the applications from the firewall layer at the application layer. So then you can say like, okay, this is Dropbox, or high level, this is file sharing, and then it'll list out all the file sharing and the specific application information surrounding it. And so if you have those firewall logs in your SIM, a great thing to do is just go pick file sharing as the category, and then look at all the different things from the subcategory. Whatever's not sanctioned, dig into it, look at the session loads, what's being uploaded, what's being downloaded, you know, who's using it, the rarity of those, right? So there's tons of different ways to do it, but I'm telling you, those, if you're like, what are the different file sharings available? Like go use the Apppedia. It may not be a one-to-one mapping if you have like a Fortinet or like a Sonic wall, but it's just a good baseline to figure out like what exists. And it's funny, for shared showed up in there for some other subcategory application identification. I'm like, I've seen that before.
Yeah,
web dabbing. Yeah, and I was like, oh,
Money.
look at that. And then I was like, oh, look at all these other web dab potential services that could be used. Dropbox. Is that?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
It was. Yep, there it is. I did see. I could have sworn I saw it, and here it is. I think this is where. I think it's in the HTML. Yep, right here. It beacons that or uses the API for Dropbox. So I mean, again, nothing new for this group, but this is definitely something, you know, that they do
and
use.
Again,
you know,
we're not looking at super complex attack paths, right? Think about, okay, get an email and then the different things that sequence to execution of root saw or malware X, right? Those things are all, we've seen them for years now. Yeah. We're not like anything groundbreaking or earth-shattering. It's all coming back to the basics. I'll say it again. Egress filtering is going to be one of the best things. If you don't need it, kill it. And if you're not sure, kill it and see who screams, right? Like then you'll find it. So it's super, you know, important to do those things. Is it, you know, hunting APTs? Well, it clearly is, right? Because look at who's using it. So just a fun spin. But you have some interesting stuff lined up for some tests, which, you know, we're coming up on time, but like let's jump in.
Let me flip back here. I went through, and I'm sorry I didn't capitalize root saw, but I was like, I don't know if it deserves a caps, so I just put the generic.
That's a totally different piece of malware.
Yeah,
capital root saw versus lowercase root saw is two different ones. Like now the
case sensitive APT. Sorry. So these are just two different samples that I grabbed from the blog, just kind of showing what their HTML looks like. You can see we see this all the time at this point, right? Like these are the same typical HTMLs. It's just an HTML, it has its title. You can't see my mouse pointing at this, but the var D on the left or the F underscore F1 and F2, those are their encoded payloads. The one on the left is a byte encoded, which I thought was really cool. And then something it does on the left sample, and I'll show this one in my little demo today, is it will download the payload to disk, as the file name in this left one is invitation farewell. And then it also does a GET request out to a remote actor controlled website, which is the WordPress one. I believe that's meant to just be a check-in and to show something, which I'll show in a second. It's grabbing I don't know if it shows it here. Basically, it sends out along with that check-in, it sends out a base64 blob to the site, kind of like saying, yo, checked in, this is where my file is located, the username, things like that. I'll show that here. And then the last slide, I wanted to at least show some of the LNKs, because we do have, you can't read it. At least you can read the right side one. But basically, their LNKs are pretty standard fare, I'd say. It wasn't like, again, super crazy novel. I think this might be related to their side loading ones. I just grabbed two.
Recycling bin execution.
Yep.
See that bad boy?
Yeah. Yep.
What year is it?
PNG. I know. Yeah. Yep.
I'm telling you, it's old as new.
Yep. Every day. WinDoc and recycle bin
MS build
PNG. Right?
I'm gonna keep saying it until it starts coming back.
Yep.
Isn't that how it works?
Exactly.
Like the Biggie Smalls thing.
Yep. And we're hitting time, but we do have atomics for most of these techniques, which is super cool because like you can go kick the tires right now. T1553005 for your ISO. We have like 3 or 4 ISO tests. There is an LNK test under T1240002, and I called it HTML Snuggles because that's T1027006. The only thing we don't have an atomic for, which I may or may not be correct about if I think about it, is a URL in a PDF. I don't know if we host that. I have to double check. I'm not sure.
It could be
And I think about it, I feel like there's one there. But hey, you know what? We got some demos on board here today, and we'll wrap up in a couple minutes. So let's flip her back.
Loading that up.
Oh yeah, it's gonna take me a minute. Go ahead.
Say, when you're testing those atomics, because they're not like a standard atomic, right? You're not doing something like a search order hijacking or a PowerShell execution. But what's important is to be able to see, like, okay, in my data sources, whatever it is, do I see the execution of that HTML file or the mounting of that ISO? And then based on the execution from inside that archive file, whether it's a zip or an ISO, what does that look like in my EDR? Now, I think one thing that gets confused sometimes in the things of like the MITRE test, or, you see like EDR bypass, like what does that mean? Like an alert didn't get thrown? Okay, who cares if an alert didn't get thrown? Like, does it exist in the data? Because if it doesn't exist in the data, period, then of course you're not going to see an alert. So looking to make sure, like, 2 points of, do I see it in data? And then do my analytics, or do I need to go build one exist, depending on how you're running it, right? If it's just relying on the EDR to give you the alert, or if you're building your own custom ones. But really make sure you have the correct data to be able to effectively do it. Or realizing I don't have that and I need to go figure out. So things like the VHDMP logs, which we've touched on many times before.
Yep. Good logs.
12, 1, 10, I think are the three that are going to tell you things like the mounts and the unmounts and where the paths are that exist to those. And that's not just for like ISOs, that's IMGs, VHDs, VHDX, etc. So very bountiful in that log itself.
I was gonna say, I think it's all of them, right? Yeah.
It's all of them.
Any virtual hard disk mounting.
Yes. Tests.
Yes. So, okay. Yeah, I'm just going to pull this one out of the hat. This is a test number 4, 1553.005, test number 4, which is going to execute an LNK file named document LNK from the all the things ISO. Executes command run DLL to order to load and execute all things from the ISO, which will spawn calc. Let's see if it works.
Wow. That's a meaty test.
Yeah. Execute an LNK. So there should be a couple paths here, and there it is. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that worked. Good times. So yeah, there's our ISO, and we can see what it's doing, right? Based on the testing right here. So it mounts the image. It will get the drive letter, which I think that's the part that I fixed. It then runs the, right, where's it at? I think it just runs the LNK, and then the command will then
LNK is inside of for calc should be inside that LNK.
Yeah, it's like a command. Yeah, I guess we can go crack it open.
CMDs, schwack, C30, Windows 30, System 32, calc.
Yeah, there, that's the word. All right, so next one was the T1204. And I don't think I had, oh yeah, here's some good ones. Okay, so we're looking at test number 10 down there. Let's go. All right, so this one was a little bit simpler. It's supposed to download an LNK from the interwebs, drops it to disk in the temp directories called test 10 LNK, which this is a great test to have some new input arguments in. We need that little bubble that pops up that says idea, but yeah, this is another good one. Yes, thank you, perfect. So I haven't tested this one before, so we'll see if it actually works. I don't know what the expected result is. It will invoke to download putty. Okay, let's see if that happens. Okay, it's doing things. Okay.
It's a lot of bytes for an LNK file. Oh, because it was downloading. Downloading putty. But yeah.
Yep, it worked.
Like, wow, that is a huge LNK, and then realizing, oh yeah, it's got to download putty too. So,
yeah. All right, now on to the snuggles, and this is T1027 006. Show details.
What technique is that? Oh, this is the one that I created that was broken for a while, and then Mike miraculously fixed it, I think.
I don't remember, but I'll take the credit.
Somebody fixed it. Whoever it was, thank you. That was broken for a while, and I could not figure out what was going on with it.
Happens.
But yeah, that's it.
Oh, boom. Nothing to see here, and it gives me my ISO. So yeah, there's your snuggling. That's pretty good. I'm impressed that it worked.
Same.
We are ripping. All right.
Thank you I borrowed the code from Outflank, so thank you, Outflank.
Yes,
It is credited in the HTML if you go open and check the source code.
Cool.
I think it was Stu.
That's pretty cool. That's a good test. I'm really happy that worked. Like, that's a solid test. That's a very, very solid test.
Stupid simple too. You could honestly, here's your free atomic idea.
Oh, let me write it down.
Create a PDF with the link, the URL to that that has the link to download that HTML file, which will have the ISO smuggled in. Boom. There's your next test and attack path for that particular thing. And
we also need to add input.
Yeah, there's something else.
args to T10-1204.
Yep.
002. Cool. Those are the next Atomic Wednesdays. Okay. We have like 3 minutes to geek out. All right. So
let's go.
I had the idea of like, well, what if there was a way we could replicate what the Cozy Bear does by embedding a zip into an HTML file and set the URL very similar to theirs, except I don't have an adversary controlled C2 server or Netcat listener or anything like that. But basically, I just took their HTML, wrote a little app around it, and now what it'll do is it'll check into our mockbin site, and then it also byte encoded the zip file. Let me open up my APT29 dev directory, because everybody has an APT29 dev directory.
Is your system vulnerable to the WinRAR CVE?
I only have 2 days left to buy my license, so yes. Actually,
it'll stay licensed after those 2 days.
It was installed for that CVE, so yes, it is.
Wink, wink. Send Mike some malware.
Yes, I'll happily run it in lab. All I have in here is
that's not the corporate box.
No, not yet. This is my Winbox Pop. Inside here is just Bob's HTA, which is like, Bob's invoice, in here, because that's how I'm going to smuggle this, right? So here we go. So I'm going to download it. Actually, I'm going to give it a better name. Can I give it a name? I didn't add that. Okay, next time. Download my HTML. This is going to be called that. I'll go to my fun place. Please do not laugh at all the evils that are inside my downloads directory.
I feel like that's red teaming. It's what like red teamers look like before an op kicks off.
Yes. Okay. So Edge popped up and said, "Hey, I went ahead and downloaded your file." So victim will say, "Oh, there's my invoice I was looking for." Click my invoice. It probably did things I don't want to know about, but we'll leave that alone for the next call. Okay, so
invoice. There's a problem with the invoice. Let's just close out and call it a day.
It didn't work.
Nothing happened.
Time to go home. So we mentioned mockben. So with mockben, we can go here, refresh that ID, and you can see we have our check-in from a few seconds ago. And this is all the details, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we all know that APT29, apologies, Cozy Bear, part of it here is this base 64 blob, copy, go to here, copy, paste. You now have the check-in of who it was, or whatever they were collecting. You can obviously collect more things. In this particular instance, just grabbing the username and the path of the file on disk, things like that. No need to bake. Already baked it. But yeah, thought that was really cool to mock up. This is me mixing, I guess, in a way, our APT29 with our APT28s using mockben, if you haven't been following.
Noticing a pattern?
Yes.
I'm noticing some overlap in TTPs.
Yeah. Happened to be the same bear, just different group. A fancy Cozy Bear.
Black bear versus a brown bear? Versus a polar bear? Versus a panda bear?
I'm trying to think. What's the... Oh, you said polar bear. That's all I got. And I know we're at the top of our time. So mitigations, detections, we've talked about this. Again, I think that the overlap with everything else in the past is this isn't like new tradecraft. There's really like obviously nothing super extreme fancy here.
Yeah, it's really coming down to, again, like don't think about the specific implementation every single time. It's how are they doing it, right? Like the delivery is an ISO file. How do you stop users from just opening? Well, prevent them from just being able to double click and mount, right? Like there's simple things, right? Like abstract out. Again, I think a lot of times we focus too much on, oh, they changed the thing. Like, is it earth shattering and groundbreaking? Like, no, as we saw here, you go back to that first slide, which talks about the different paths all leading to root saw. It's all variations of the same things that have been going around. So it's important to really understand like what is the actual like objective or thing that we can, cut off at the head, so to speak, which is ISOs, HTML, deliveries, etc. Again, why is it showing up on the endpoint?
Yep. HTMLs and zips, PDFs leading to things, PDF with URLs and QR codes and all that. I'm pretty sure. I don't know why we're now sponsored by Sublime, but I'm pretty sure all these rules have been all created by them and they're public, right? Like this isn't new, novel, unique.
Seriously, go test it out. Go chat with that team, top tier team. They're doing some great stuff. I get their monthly newsletters, and honestly, each month is like some new cool feature that's implemented. Bunch of repos. Highly recommend checking it out, especially for the email side. Right? If it's showing up on disk, there's a reason. Especially if it's coming from email, well, you have an email security problem. How do you solve it?
Yeah. Yeah, man. This is good.
Right on. It's a fun one. So again,
Bacon.
APT bacons. So catch you next time.
Yeah.
And, enjoy your flaxseed. 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Topic. I'm not sure. We'll figure out the topic.
Yeah. If you got ideas, ship it.
Yeah, I know we're kind of going down this Russian bear craze lately.
Maybe we find some more bears. Maybe we pivot. Maybe we get some jackals or something.
Spiders.
I can't do more Wicked Spider. I'm Wicked Spidered out.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm wicked over wicked over those spiders.
Yes. Definitely.
All right, y'all. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. Been real.
Good luck out there.